Hey everyone, Mr. Macintosh here, and if you've got an unsupported Mac running OpenCore Legacy Patcher, we've got a brand new update available, 2.2.0. This is a huge update with a ton of fixes, and we're going to go over all those. Plus, we're going to show you how to do a full walkthrough on how to update your Mac to the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Plus, we're going to go over the brand new Sequoia update 15.2, and we're going to test it on 13 different Mac models. We got a lot to cover. Let's jump in and get started. Now, before we begin, if you could do me one small favor. We're going into the holiday season for a lot of people, and I want to give a big shout out again to all of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers. Makola, Dina K, Hostauer Sportler, Ed U. Kavas, A Sentient Hedgehog, A Sentient Bot, and all the other developers who put in hours and hours and hours, Jasny, Flaggers, who have put tons of their own time into this patcher. If you could put in the comments how OpenCore Legacy Patcher has helped you in your Mac and how you're using your Mac today, that would be absolutely fantastic. Some of the developers sometimes get down because all they see is people complaining in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher Discord, but when I look in my comments, I see nothing but happiness, positivity, people helping each other out. It is absolutely wonderful, and I want them to be able to see this, and maybe they might not see it, but if they do, I would love to be able to see your wonderful comments. Thank you. One thing I wanted to mention before we get started here is I know these videos are long, but OpenCore Legacy Patcher got a lot going on with a lot of different models, and there's a lot of different things that can happen, and I want to make sure that I cover as much information as possible. If you want to come and just get the information about the new features, and then you want to jump to maybe your model down here, I'm totally fine with that. Or if you want to watch the whole video from start to finish and learn what's going on at each update, but you can jump, and I always put the chapters in here so you can go to the exact place you want to go to. Okay, first we're going to go over some of the main 2.2.0 features, then we're going to go over the full changelog, then we'll go over a full walkthrough on how to update your Mac to the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher 2.2.0 and update to 15.2. I've seen a lot of people in the comments, especially in Reddit and in Facebook, saying they're still a little bit confused on how to update. There's people responding like, oh, I use a full USB to do the update, and you can do that. Don't get me wrong, you update how you want to update, but there's a really simple flow on how to update to the latest version of OpenCore and the latest version of macOS. So we'll go over that in the next section, but I just wanted to call that out. If you're still a little bit confused on how to do updates for OpenCore Legacy Patcher and macOS for the updates to your system settings, let's look at some of the main features. So with 2.2.0, it's focused around macOS 15.2 Sequoia. And you can see that the developers have been working on these patches in beta before macOS 15.2 even came out, which is fantastic because that allows the patcher to be released basically on the same day 15.2 was released, so you can update before you install 15.2. The primary changes include resolves a JavaScript core crash on 15.2 and Safari 18.2, including macOS Ventura and macOS Sonoma. So this affected all three operating systems all the way back to Ventura, meaning that if you installed the latest version of the OS, you might be having crashes within Safari and the operating system if you do not install the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher 2.2.0. And this is applicable for Macs without AVX support pre-Sandy Bridge. So if you're wondering what Sandy Bridge is, you can see here Sandy Bridge includes 2011 devices and older, so non-metal Macs all the way back. So that gives you an idea of the machines that are affected by that issue. Also resolve a number of non-metal graphical issues in macOS Sonoma and macOS Sequoia. So this is fantastic news because especially with macOS Sequoia, there has been some issues with non-metal, and we'll get to some of those in the changelog. I always mention this too. Keep in mind Sequoia is in active development, and this is with the patcher and with Apple. Apple is changing Sequoia to fix bugs and even adding features as late as 15.2. There's a ton of new features added there, and that can actually break the patcher in certain situations. So if you need a solid system, again, I recommend macOS Ventura or macOS Sonoma. I also mentioned that if you ever wanted to donate to the developers, you can do so on the OpenCore Legacy Patcher Open Collective, and this goes directly to the developers so they can get the hardware needed to be able to test up to 84 different Mac models, and do so only if you have the means to do so. That is much appreciated by the developers. Now I'll take a look at the full change log. There's a lot of non-metal fixes. They have been working to get these things fixed, and they've not forgotten about non-metal. Metal, because there's a lot of support built in, but non-metal has been difficult since the very beginning of macOS Sequoia. So seeing some of these fixes in here is absolutely fantastic to see, especially look right here. Resolve non-metal Photos app issues in macOS Sequoia. Some people were reporting crashes and all kinds of issues. Also, there's an accessibility zoom on macOS Sequoia and macOS Sonoma that has been fixed. And hold on a second, I got this is one of the things that you know that I've been talking about, and it affected these videos because it was very difficult. I couldn't even show you those machines without putting a complex setup with the screen capture card and all this crap. So this is one that I can't believe it's there, and I'm so happy to see, because now I can show you all those non-metal Macs with screen sharing over the local network. So this is fantastic news. I'm so happy to see that screen sharing is working on non-metal Macs. Resolved a non-metal inverted screenshots. When you took a screenshot, they were sometimes inverted. There's also improved the non-metal beta menu bar reliability. Let's take a quick look at that. So here we are on our non-metal 17-inch late 2011 MacBook Pro. And if we want to look at the menu bar settings for non-metal, we can go into settings, and then we can go into root patching. And I turned off the beta blur off in here. You can see what it looks like. And I've got the dark menu bar on. Different backgrounds, for example, if you have a light background up here, it'll just be white and it'll be hard to see. So I turned on the dark menu bar so we can see that better. I was also having some issues, and we'll talk about this later when we get to this machine. Some of the screensavers, the moving and live screensavers, were causing issues with the login window. So I changed it to a very static screensaver and background, and that's been working very well so far. So if we click on one of the menu bars, you can see that there's sometimes you can see it kind of flashing a little bit. That's what the beta blur will fix. So if we want to fix that, if we want to turn that back on to get the better reliability, we can check mark that, click return, and then we can log out and log back in. You can log in. Now we can check the menu bar to see how it looks. And look at that. No more flashing. Very nice. So when disable non-metal broken weather background animations on macOS Sequoia, so we can take a look at that. If we open up the weather, usually there's animations in the background of whatever city that you select. If we select Cupertino, there would be either clouds or rain in here, and that was broken. So those are disabled, so it still works, so you can read the weather. You just don't have any animations. So you don't need those anyway. All you do want to do is come here and see the temperature and the hourly forecast. So it's great that that's fixed. The next thing is that resolved a non-metal Safari distracting items crash on macOS Sequoia. If you're not familiar with hide distracting items, it's a really nice feature that will basically, if you're just trying to read art, like look at this Macworld article, ads everywhere. It's like, what the heck? So what you can do, you see this little icon in here? Click on this here, and this gives you the highlights, and then hide distracting items is right here. So click on this, and then you can remove them like this. Click on this here to be able to remove this items like this. Just blow away, gone. Click this, gone. Look at that. Click this, gone. And it works. Look at that. Now you can actually read the article. You can see 3 items hidden. So wonderful feature, and it's great now that it's working on non-metal. There was a full screen transition issue on macOS Sonoma and macOS Sequoia that was resolved. There was also a T1, so this is 2016 and 2017 Apple Pay issue that was resolved. And there was also a Touch ID support that was fixed for macOS Sequoia 15.2. So that's again 2016 and 2017 Macs with Touch ID support. There was also some iCloud syncing issues that was resolved, and like we mentioned earlier about the JavaScript core. And that rounds about the changes in the 2.2.0 changelog. This is another thing I wanted to mention, and I know I've mentioned this in the past, but I gotta mention because it keeps happening. Users get into this. Even today on Twitter, someone mentioned that they got into the version mismatch error that happens when automatic updates is enabled. Please go into, if you haven't done this, just do it right now. Go into System Settings, go into Software Update, and disable automatic download updates. You'll see automatic updates here. Click on this little eye, and you'll see all the settings. Notice how, since macOS Sonoma was the last one, there's no check for updates anymore. That was an option. You'd be able to just check for updates. But now this is enabled by default for macOS Sequoia. So what it does is it'll download the update, but not like previous OSs. It will actually prepare it and then modify the system so you can't install any patches or anything. The only way you'll be able to do this is to let the system install that update, whether it's a full upgrade from Sonoma to Sequoia, or if it's a macOS update like 15.2. So if you get in that situation, I've got a YouTube video right here to be able to get yourself out of that, but it's a pain in the butt. So do yourself a favor, turn this off here and install if that's on. And then you can control when to install those updates when you're ready to go, and you won't get into that mismatch issue. I try to do my best to keep an eye on everything that's happening in the OpenCore community, and there was some posts here in the OpenCore Legacy Patcher subreddit about the 2.2.0 update for OpenCore Legacy Patcher and macOS Big Sur. Apparently, after updating to the latest version and then installing the root patches, the machines are not booting properly. So I'm gonna have to fire up my old trusty Big Sur machines and do some testing there. So I recommend holding off on updating your Big Sur system until we can figure out what's going on here. Again, with all the different compatibility issues here, sometimes these things happen, but that's why I recommend just waiting a little bit to see how things are going before installing the latest version. And if I figure out what the issue is, I will post that in the description of this video down below, or I'll post this to my Twitter. Okay, now let's go through a full walkthrough demo on how to do two important things. Update to the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher 2.2.0 and update our system to macOS Sequoia 15.2. This is a multi-step process here. And as long as you follow this process, this is the process that's recommended by the developers. It's also the quickest and easiest process to be able to do. What we want to do before we ever update to a newer version of the operating system is to make sure that we're running the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And as you could see with all that change log for 15.2, there was a ton of fixes in there that prepares your system from having issues if you upgrade to 15.2 and you have an older version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher installed. So that's why it's important to have the latest version available. What this also does, it will help you, if you have issues with your system, identify where it's coming from. If you update to 2.2.0 and everything's fine, you know you're good with that version of the patcher. But if you update to 15.2 and are having a specific issue, you can point to the 15.2 update instead of maybe OpenCore, for example. That's why it's good to get on the latest version. Then your system is good and set on the previous version. Like for example, this system is on 15.1.1 and we're going to go to 15.2. Then we'll know everything's in great shape before we make that full jump. When you get this message will come up two ways. This is the update message that tells you that OpenCore Legacy Patcher has a new version available. The first way that'll happen is if you restart your system and log in for the first time. A launch statement will kick off, check for the update as long as you have network, and if there is an update available, it'll show you. The next way is if you manually start the application itself. So let's say you logged in and it doesn't work and doesn't show you. You can always open up the app and it'll immediately check to see if there's an update. So once you see this, you can ignore it and wait, and you can just stay on this version for a while. If you don't want to update right now, that's totally fine. And then you can also disable that in the settings if you want to do that. But I don't recommend that. You should know when the latest version comes out. You can also view the information and all the changelog in GitHub, but we are going to make it super simple. We're going to download and install. And I always like to call that the ABC or 1, 2, 3. Step 1 is to download and install the application. Step 2 is to install the OpenCore to your EFI partition on your hard drive. And step 3 is to install the root patches for your graphics acceleration, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and all that. So we'll let this download here, and then we'll let the application install itself. Okay, installing update. Now, one quick note on this part is that if you're running an older system, this might take a little bit longer depending on the speed of your system. This is installing the update in the background and it takes a little bit of time, so just give it the time that it needs. And when it's done, it will bring us to the next part and it'll pop up with a message saying, would you like to install and update the OpenCore patches for our EFI partition? So we'll give it a second to finish here. And there it is. 2.2.0 has been installed, and there's our step 1 is complete. We are on the latest 2.2.0 application, and now it's time to do a build and install OpenCore to our EFI bootloader. So now we're going to click on yes. And then it basically wrote all those settings. We're going to click install to disk as soon as we go through the 2 menu selections here for our hard drive and EFI partition. And it'll mount right here. Here it is. It's writing the configuration with the new settings and all of the new 2.2.0. There it is. It's complete. Now, step 2 is done. Step 3 is to update the root patches on the system. And there we go. On this 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro, we've got AMD Polaris, Modern Wireless, and our T1 security chip. We'll click on Start Root Patching. And here's the place where if it needs a metal lib package or the kernel debug kit, it's going to go download that. But it doesn't need that now because we're not on a newer version of the OS. So 15.1.1, as you can see, is already on the system. That is located, the kernel debug kit is located in Library, Developer, KDKs. And there's our 15.1.1, so we didn't need to do any downloads. If you're looking for the metal lib support package, that is located in Library, Application Support, Dortania, and there will be a MetalLib support package folder right here. And I always put the list of MetalLib support Macs and the list of kernel debug kit Macs in the description below in this video so you can see if you need that or not. If for some reason that doesn't happen, you need to know about it, because when you're installing the patches and you don't see that message come up and you have a new version on there, you might want to take a quick peek at that, and we'll go over that a little bit later. So now that's it. Step 1, 2, and 3 are finished. Now all we need to do is reboot to apply all of these patches and settings. Okay, we're back on the desktop. Let's go back into the OpenCore Legacy Patcher application. And what I like to do is I like to check the root patches right here, and you can see, and basically it'll tell you right here if all the applicable patches are already installed. We saw in the previous video when we updated one of the MetalLib support Macs, before the MetalLib support package was built on the server, it was able to find it after that 4-hour mark. It runs every 4 hours to run and create that package. So if the update comes out 4 hours later, it'll detect that, it'll make the MetalLib support package and then make it available. So if you installed really early and you come back here, it might say that you have it available to download, and that's where you can start that process. And we saw that in the last video. So we are good to go on this 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro or our 15.2 macOS Sequoia update. So let's do that now. So now that we're updated to 2.2.0, we want to be able to install the latest version of macOS Sequoia. So all you need to do is go into System Settings, click on that software update, or if you see software update here with the 1, you can click on that and be brought right to the software update window. Before we kick this off, I wanted to mention that Kepler-based Macs have an issue with software update. There's something going on, and I mentioned that in the last video, and that's what's great about you guys, is that a bunch of you chimed in and made me think I am definitely not crazy because you were having the same issue. And what that issue is on Kepler is trying to click the update now. It's not working. It's not responding. I'm going to show you that later once we get to our Kepler Mac demonstration unit, but I wanted to call that out now. So back to the update. All you need to do is click, if you want to see more information about the update and the size, click on more info. And here's the information on 15.2 update and the size and the information. What I wanted to do is call out this size really quick. A lot of you asked, why is the size so big and why do I have to reinstall the operating system? And I want to be clear on this. This update is there if we have a non-sealed system, and a regular supported Mac can be in this situation, and if it finds that, that's why we have to have the largest version of the operating system update to be able to install, and that's the full update. And normally we'll get what's called the Delta update, which is small, which is a couple gigabytes, anywhere between 2 and 5 gigabytes in size for supported Macs. What's nice is if you look at the OpenCore Legacy Patcher frequently asked questions section, you can see right here the developers say why the updates are so large. macOS by default uses a sealed system volume that is unwritable. When the seal is broken, macOS thinks that the volume is broken and downloads a full copy of macOS for every update to prepare it to a known state. In order for the root patching to work, this seal has to be broken, since the root patching by design requires on-disk file manipulation to make it work. This is also why root patches have to be reinstalled after each update. So what happens is after the update's installed, the OS is resealed up, and protect it again. But the patcher has to unseal that, apply all the changes in the patches to it, and then it'll start working for the unsupported Mac. Even though it says a broken seal, that seems bad. It's basically just opening up for being able to edit and install those patches. So that gives you an idea on why the Mac updates are so large. Okay, let's click on Update Now. And agree. And we can see it down on. Now this is where we're going to be able to see our caching server in action for our Mac Pro 2013. Let's bring that bad boy into this section here. Well, before that, let's make sure that we see this. So we've got our kernel debug kit that needs to be downloaded. We'll click on OK on that and let that start to download here. That's great. While this is going, look how fast this is going. And we can bring on our caching server here. Check this bad boy out. We're transferring over the local network at 122 megabytes per second because the 15.2 update is cached to the server, so it's able to serve that to this network. And I wanted to show you something else, which is really cool. Check out these caching server statistics here. We've served over the last 30 days 395 gigabytes over the local network to almost 14 different Mac models when we're doing these updates. So we can definitely see that that caching server is serving very well here. And look at that. It's got 1 minute to go on 15.25 gigabytes. Now keep in mind, we talked about that size because it's definitely getting larger. Every hardware model that's added adds in more stuff like Apple Intelligence and all that stuff is added to the full installer. The installer keeps getting bigger and bigger. It was 14.5 gigabytes on the last update run. You can see that the download for the KDK is a little bit stalled and slow. Once this finishes, and you'll see this kick up 4, 3, 2, 1 when it's got the full 15 gigs over the local network. Now it's going to prepare the update, and now you'll see this pick up. You can see that really jump really fast, and then that'll be able to download the kernel debug kit. So let this prepare and install, restart, and we'll come back to when this comes back up for the first time and we need to be able to install the patches, and we'll finish that out. Okay, we're back up after the update and we have logged in, and now we see our message that we were looking for. The launch statement will kick off and see and check, and now it recognizes that we do not have the patches installed. So you don't have to manually start the app and install the patches. If for some reason you just install the update and your screen's white and it's running slow and this does not come up, that's totally fine. Just open up OpenCore Legacy Patcher and click the install root patches button and you'll be off to the races. Okay, there goes the root patching. We'll let this run here. Okay, the patcher has successfully installed the root patches. All we need to do now is reboot. We'll click on the reboot and then restart. Alright, we are back up on our 15-inch 2017 MacBook Pro. We've got our Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, everything is working great. If we open up OpenCore Legacy Patcher, we can see that all of the root patches are installed properly and we are looking good to go. And that's the process on how to update OpenCore Legacy Patcher, install the latest macOS update, and then install the root patches after. If you have any questions on this process, please let me know in the comments. Alright, now let's take a look at our individual reports for OpenCore Legacy Patcher 2.2.0 and 15.2 Sequoia. We'll start with our MacBook Retina 12-inch early 2016. We're running a 1.1 dual-core Intel M3, and it still runs pretty good for having a processor with no fan and having a throttle when it gets really CPU intensive. We've got Intel HD Graphics 515 and 8 gigabytes of RAM. We have Intel SKL graphics system extension that is installed, and our root patches have Intel Skylake Modern Wireless and PCIe FaceTime camera. We did our tests on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Wake Sleep, and all of those are running fine. I took a look at the Photos app and the TV app, and there's no crashing in either of those. That's our little 12-inch MacBook. Is anybody running a 12-inch MacBook out there? It seems like not too many people bought the 12-inch MacBook. It's a great little laptop for travel, and it's very light and it's durable, but again, it never really caught on. I think that's why Apple discontinued it. Let me know in the comments if you've got this guy. Next up is our iMac Retina 5K 27-inch late 2015. It's running a quad-core Intel i5, and it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM. We're running 15.2 and 2.2.0. And for the root patches, we've got Intel Skylake AMD Legacy GCN and modern wireless patches. And we got the kernel debug kit 24C101, which is 15.2 installed properly. And we've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and sleep wake were tested good. For applications, we've got photos working okay. We've got Apple TV running, and we're testing Apple Maps is working okay too. So we're looking good on this 5K 2015 iMac. All right, next up is our MacBook Air 11-inch early 2014. We are running 15.2, 2.2.0, same release of OpenCore. For our root patches, we have our graphics Intel Haswell, modern wireless, and PCIe FaceTime camera. This machine also needs the metal lib support package that we've been talking about, and this is where we have our first issue. Now, the metal lib support package is stored in library, application support, titanium metal lib support package. Now you can see here we're running 15.2, but we only have 15.1.1 in there. Now remember, this is not the end of the world. Makola has mentioned that this is kind of like the kernel debug kit where you can have a one version difference and there's no problem. But if you want to have the latest version available, you can go back into OpenCore Legacy Patcher and we can run those root patches again and should find the 15.2 metal lib support package. So we can do that now by clicking post install root patch and then start root patching. And there it is. It found the 24C100. We can take a look here. You can see the closest match 24C100, and we've got that ready to go installed in here, right here. So it's got it downloaded, and that's the one it's using instead of the 15.1.1. Again, the system's running fine, but if you notice any small little issues, this is something that you want to check. It's installed that now. We'll reboot and we'll be good to go on the latest version. And again, I put the list in the description of all the metal lib support package machines so you can know which version needs this package installer. Next up is our 2013 MacBro trash can. Love this little guy. It's been a real soldier here for our caching server, and it is a 3.7 quad-core Intel Xeon processor. We've got our AMD FirePro D300 2GB and 32 gigabytes of RAM. We're running the latest 15.2 and 2.2.0. And for our root patches, we've got AMD Legacy GCN and networking for modern wireless. We've got the latest version of the kernel debug kit 15.2 24C101 installed, and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, wake from sleep are working. And for our applications, we've got our Apple TV working, our Apple Maps, and our photos are working a-okay so far. So we're looking good on our Mac Pro. Okay, up next is our MacBook Pro Retina 15-inch mid-2014 Kepler based Mac. Now this is the one that was having problems with the software update, and we'll talk about that after this initial report. 15.2 2.2.0. For our root patches, we've got Intel Haswell, Nvidia Kepler, modern wireless, and PCIe FaceTime camera. For our metal lib support package on this device, we did get the 15.2 24C100, so that was not an issue like it was with the MacBook Air. And we also have extensions, Apple Intel HD 5000 graphics, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, wake sleep is working. For applications, we've got our photos, Apple TV, and our Apple Maps are working properly. Now back to the software update issue. I've been trying to test this thing to figure out how the heck to get this thing kicked off properly, and if you have any tips on the way you were able to get yours going, let me know. But what I was able to do is get it going running the terminal command sudo software update -IAR, which is install all restart. So you can see here it'll start to download the update, and then it'll actually start to process, and you can click on software update if this is closed and open it up, and it'll show the same status as it does over here. And that's how I was able to get this thing to properly get kicked off, because no matter what, if I click the start or update now, it just refused to go, and that must be some sort of a Kepler based issue. That's our MacBook Pro 2014. Next up is our MacBook Pro 13-inch mid-2012. We're running a 2.2, we're running a 2.5 dual-core Intel i5, Intel HD graphics 4000, and 4 gigabytes of RAM, 15.2, 2.2.0. And for our root patches, we have Intel Ivy Bridge, and modern wireless. Now, when we got to our Metal Lib support package, we did have that issue with not getting the latest version, and we're still on 15.1.1. So if we go into that folder for Metal Lib, we can see that happened to the system again, but it's still working okay. For our extensions, we've got Apple Intel HD 4000 extension, and our Wi-Fi Bluetooth Wake Sleep is working. If we go into the patcher, we can kick off and get that latest version of the Metal Lib support package again going here by clicking the Install Root Patch and then clicking Start Root Patching again. And there it goes. There's our 24C100. And we'll let that install. Next up is our Mac Mini late 2012. We're running a 2.5 dual-core Intel i5. And we've got 4 gigabytes of RAM. 15.2.220 for our root patches, Intel Ivy Bridge, modern wireless, networking patches, and our Metal Lib support package did work with 15.2 24C100. Wi-Fi Bluetooth Wake Sleep is working. And for applications, we got Apple TV, Maps, and Photos is working A-OK. Next up is our iMac 27-inch mid-2011. It's got a 3.4 quad-core i7, 1 gigabyte of RAM for graphics, AMD Radeon 6970M, and 16 gigs of RAM. 15.2.220, and for root patches we have Intel Ivy Bridge and modern wireless patches. For our kernel debug kit, we've got 15.2, and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Wake from Sleep is working. For applications, we've got our Apple TV, we've got our Photos, and we've got a first issue. Maps is not loading properly for our iMac. Other than that, we're working pretty good. Next up is our 2011 17-inch MacBook Pro. Now, we brought this one up earlier when we were going over a couple things, but we are running a 2.4 quad-core i7 with a Intel HD 3000, 4 gigabytes of RAM. This machine was having some issues with crashing with the login window server. It would just basically refresh and you would see the crash here. I was having some issues, I think, with some of the widgets. I was able to cancel out all the widgets here and turn them off. You can click Edit Widgets and click the X button, close all those out. And then I was able to reactivate the beta blur in here. And everything has been running well. I have not seen any crashes as of there. We are running root patches, Intel Sandy Bridge, AMD Terascale 2, and modern wireless. We also have the kernel debug kit 15.2.100, and that's working A-OK. Now, when we come to the maps, it looks like we're having an issue with non-metal in the maps. It does not seem to be loading the map properly. Photos does load, but Apple TV does not show the preview videos, and when you click on, like if we go to, which one is the silo, it doesn't show the play free episode button. So I gotta look into this. It's supposed to show a button here. I gotta see if there's an issue with that, and I'll have to look into that in a little bit. But that's our 2011. Next up is our 13-inch mid-2010 MacBook. This polycarbonate machine still running well for its age. It's running a Core 2 Duo, so it is a little bit slower than the other machines. It's still kicking it. We've got AMD Polaris graphics, modern wireless, and legacy USB 1.1. We've got our KDK was installed at 15.2, and that was working. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Sleep, and Wake is working. On the application side, same thing with the maps for non-metal not working properly. So that's our 2010 13-inch MacBook. Up next is the king, our 2010 Cheese Grater Mac Pro. This bad boy is running a dual 2.66 6-core Intel Xeon processor. We're running an upgraded AMD Radeon Pro WX metal compatible video card, and we've got 24 gigabytes of RAM. We've got our AMD Polaris modern wireless because we're running an upgraded Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card, and our legacy USB 1.1. The kernel debug kit did work with 15.2 24C101, and we've got Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Wake Sleep working A-OK. And because we're running a metal card, our maps is working properly, and when we go back to our TV, we've got that free play episode button that we were talking about before. So I think that is an issue on the non-metal machines, but I'm going to look more into that. So that's our 2010 Mac Pro. Finally, we got our old trusty MacBook Pro 15-inch late 2008. We're running a 2.4 Intel Core 2 Duo, Nvidia 9400M, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. This machine is definitely getting a little pokey, but it's still working. We've got our Nvidia Tesla, Legacy Wireless, Legacy USB 1.1, and keyboard backlight patches. We do have a kernel debug kit 24C100, and we've got our Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, wake, sleep working A-OK up here. And that's it for OpenCore Legacy Patcher 2.2.0. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you out, and let me know in the comments what you think about this update. Are you ready to install it? Are you holding off a little bit? What version of macOS are you running on your unsupported Mac? We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.